still with the incredulous wonders of a kid, where I just think anything is possible. So when I was lucky enough to start undergrad in the US in 1999, I went in wide-eyed, not knowing exactly what the world had in front of me, but certainly I was willing and ready to, just grab whatever opportunities I got. So fast forward, went through 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, got into residency, did fellowship, became a joint replacement surgeon, and started to work really hard. Just wanted to become the best surgeon I could ever be, right? Did that. First year, second year, third year. At this point, I was starting to feel like, yeah, I think I got this. But then I started to look at all the old surgeons in the hospital. And they were still in their 60s, 70s, backs bent, and still trading their time for money. Most of them are on their third wife or second wife. And I was like, this is interesting. I mean, and these are celebrated people. These are people who are world-class surgeons. And I'm like, is this really the life that I want for myself? Do I want to continue to trade my time for money forever? I chose another path and I started to study and educate myself. How do I start to, figure out ways to make this money that I'm making work just as hard as I'm working, so that eventually I can also just have the choice, right, to do whatever I want with whoever I want for as long as I want. And that's what I truly consider financial freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom, being able to live anywhere, money freedom, and health freedom. I was like, how do I achieve all these things? And so that took me on a journey of personal development, really trying to understand, how do I make my spirit, soul, physical, mental health as great as possible, so that I can maximize the potential that God has given me. Around that time, about 6 years ago, I befriended a very fantastic gentleman, Leslie Awesome. I call him Sensei. He's sitting right in front of me. So I was operating on patients, and he was putting them to sleep for me. And after long surgical days, sometimes 12, 14-hour days, we'll sit and just talk about business. He'll tell me about some of the real estate he's doing. I'll tell him about the angel investments I'm doing, the single family real estate I'm working on. And then he started to tell me, he's like, listen, you've lived in apartments before, right? I was like, yeah. It's like, we can actually start buying those apartment buildings. I was like, you must be smoking something. That sounds like impossible, because I know those things are super expensive. And I'm just one surgeon. Well, it's like, you know what, we can pool resources together. Me and this other friend of mine called Penny, we've been kind of putting things together and really trying to see if we could have our community, pool resources together to do this. And I was like, okay, I forgot about it for a while. And a few months later, I was my paperwork and saw something that he had sent me about multifamily real estate. Then I started to do some education and started to listen to podcasts. I read, I think, 32 books that year on personal development and real estate, and quickly realized that a lot of wealth, particularly in the US, was either held or created in real estate. Wall Street is doing it, hedge funds are doing it, insurance companies are doing it, everyone is doing it, except for some of us that were just clueless about it. But I'm not talking about single family real estate, because as Nigerians, that's what we mostly know. A lot of these people are buying everything from when we say multifamily, we're talking about multiple units. We're talking about 10, 20, 30 units. But most times when we're talking about multifamily, we're talking about 100 plus units. Because the more scale you have, the greater your ability to create wealth. The problem though is a lot of this multifamily real estate is just not accessible to people like you and I. They've just made it so difficult because one, you have to have the liquidity, but you can even have the money and you're still not able to buy it because you gotta know, you have to have like the experience to be able to buy these things. You gotta be able to know where to go get them. You gotta know how to manage them so that you don't run them down. So it just seemed impossible. But eventually I called both of them. I said, listen, I think well, before I called you guys actually, I called a couple of my friends from medical school. So I went to Howard University, grade HU. I don't know who was affiliated with. And so obviously most of my classmates were black from medical school. I called them, I said, hey, listen, I'm thinking about going and buying apartment buildings. Would you like to join in there, or have you? 9 out of 10 people that I spoke to did not know anything about buying apartment buildings. So I called my buddies from NYU, where I did my residency, mostly white folk, and hey guys, I'm thinking about doing this. What are your thoughts? 7 out of 10 non-minority folks in that small little survey I did. I had an uncle, a friend, they knew about it. They knew it was an opportunity for them. So quickly for me, I was like, there's a great opportunity here to take the gospel of multifamily real estate to our communities. When I say our communities of immigrants, our community of healthcare professionals, our community of underrepresented minorities, and that's exactly what I told my brothers to do, that we should do. So we banded together, we sat down together, and we came up with core values that were going to guide this thing that we were going to do. We said we needed to lead with honesty and integrity. That was our first core value. We said we needed to have a growth and abundance mindset, that we were never going to gatekeep what we learned, and that we were going to support any other person that wanted to do exactly what we are trying to do. And that there's enough resources, there's enough in this world that we don't have to consistently try to compete with other people. 3, we said we were going to always maintain a persistence and tenacity mindset, that we weren't going to let the first no deter us, that we were going to make sure that we kept going in the face of the greatest challenges. The 4th was that we were going to maintain a spirit of humility, that no matter how high we got, we will remember where we came from. The last core value we came up that day was daring to be unique. We told ourselves that we were going to do things much differently than everybody else has ever done it. That if we did it the same way other people did it, then we were going to get the same results they got. But if we came up with ideas outside of the box, then we were going to get extraordinary results. And that's exactly what we did. Over the last 6 years, since that meeting, we bought $217 million worth of assets 6 years ago, from 6 years ago. Since then, we have distributed $8 million to our investors. Since then, we've provided over 1,000 units of fantastic living spaces for our tenants. Since then, we have lost exactly 0% of investor capital. And this was through some of the most difficult times. This was through COVID. This was through the interest rates escalating. We decided to stay true to our fundamentals. And the fundamentals of real estate, if you do know, is that you buy for cash flow, the property's got a cash flow right away. You have adequate reserves, and you have to have long-term fixed rates if you are going to loan. I know a lot of Nigerians just plug down the money. They don't do loans. But those are the fundamental rules of real estate, and we stayed consistent, conservative with our underwriting, and that saved us and saved our investors' capital. So, fast forward to my decision to come to Nigeria. By the way, I gave myself 5 years to essentially achieve financial freedom. I am happy to tell you that in 3 years later, I was able to do it from the moment we set out. And that's essentially when, to me, when your passive income is able to take care of all of your lifestyle expenses, and you're able to do everything you need to do without necessarily having to depend on your primary source of income. So, I decided to come to Nigeria because at this point, I reflected, I chose to do orthopedics because my paternal grandmother had end-stage knee arthritis. And she was barely able to walk in the last 3 years of her life. And I knew there was still a lot of grandmas and grandpas and uncles and aunties throughout Nigeria who still needed this help. I knew I was a world-class expert at this particular types of surgeries. It was very clear to me that my destiny was going to be in Nigeria and that I needed to work on creating a legacy of improving access to orthopedic surgery care in Nigeria. So I decided to come. Right before that, we met the fantastic Eno Anson. And we started talking. He came to us and said, you know what, I've always been interested in real estate. I really, really want to be part of this. And this is a great opportunity to expand everything that you're doing in the US to our Nigerian counterparts. And if we truly have the growth and abundance mindset that I just talked about, I felt like as a Nigerian investor, as a Nigerian American investor, I have access to global real estate and a global portfolio. Why not give that same access to our fellow Nigerians? So I was like, let's set out, let's do it. And so with our most recent deal, we actually did expand the offering to international investors. And I'm happy to say that we did welcome a few Nigerian investors in this particular deal. That was a $49 million deal. But we didn't want to stop there. In the US, you see a bunch of communities where you would see multifamily apartments all bought by Israeli investors living in Israel, but diversifying their portfolio right there. You would see communities filled with apartment buildings, all bought by Indian investors, mostly living in India. You see, and that goes for multiple ethnicities throughout the world. We Nigerians, our story has been that of incredible individual excellence, but collectively, collaboratively, we've underperformed. And that's the truth. So, when we started, people said Nigerians weren't going to work together. The Nigerians weren't going to invest together. But I can tell you today that 70% of our investors are Nigerian busy professionals. So, that proof of concept is that if you have the right conduit, if you have the right platform, Nigerians and other Africans can actually come together and work together. Yes, I may not have $20 million to go buy an apartment buildings, but I have friends, I have other Nigerians who can pull together and go buy that building and more. And this is one of the pillars of XSITE Africa. This is exactly what we're going to do. And this is one of the things that I'm asking you to join hands with us today to do. but it does not stop there. I think there's an opportunity, guys and ladies, to have Nigerians in Nigeria and diaspora Nigerians work together collaboratively to create the next generation of great living spaces for young people right here at home in Nigeria. I'm talking about affordable, high quality, multi-family properties built at scale that becomes the breathing spaces for the next great ideas that transforms this country. I absolutely believe with every fiber of my being that if all of us in this room put our heads together, and all of you are the business leaders, you are leaders in this country, if we all put our heads together, we can come up with solutions for this. We can create the spaces. We can build 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 units within the next several years, where our young people are gonna live, they're gonna work, they're gonna play in them, and it's going to change the story of what it means to be young and thriving in this country. I've shared it with a couple of my friends. Some have panned it, some have encouraged it, some think I'm a little crazy, but I think that's great, because if they don't think I'm crazy, then I'm not thinking big enough. So, but my call to action to you all is this today, at the risk of going too long. We've proven that we as Nigerians can work together. I'm asking you as leaders to join us. Completely destroy our assumption. Teach us. Collaborate with us. Let's come up with solutions for accommodating the youth of Nigeria for the future. But let's also collaborate and help diversify your portfolio into the US and globally. That is the promise of XSITE Africa. That is what I hope we can do together. That is what I know we will do together. Thank you for your time.